Well, what's up, guys? We're here with another video. This time we're reviewing a series by a well-known writer, director, producer, voice actor, person on the internet that reviewed memes, Justin Roiland, and his new show, Season 1 of Solar Opposites.
Right, that's streaming on Hulu right now, which I've been pirating that Hulu for a while now, so I got to see it for free. But I think it's a show that deserves some credit because, I mean, Justin Roiland is somebody that has a big track record with successful shows, or at least most notably with Rick and Morty. And I think it's just something I don't necessarily... I mean, we can talk how the show is in terms of, is it good, is it worth watching? But I think probably one that's maybe a little bit more interesting of a discussion is this a straight Rick and Morty like ripoff, or is it, you know, something that can stand on its own? Is it, you know, in the same vein as Rick and Morty, or is it in, you know, a different kind of medium? So I guess with your thoughts first, Michael, you want to hit us up with some wisdom?
Yeah, so
because this show is all about
if wisdom. You've seen the previews or seen the show, just to clue you in a little bit, it's about plant-based aliens who arrive on Earth, and they're trying to get back home, but it's like their adventures in the meantime. So similar to many shows, they're probably never going to get back home. It's kind of like the general concept.
Isn't there, like, the homeworld's blown up? Aren't they just they're just going to like form Earth in their own image? Yeah.
So anyway, but they got to fix their ship too, for reasons. I don't know. So yeah, that's basically the concept, is they're going to reform Earth, but they got to fix their ship and do some other stuff in the meantime.
Right.
And so the similarities with Rick and Morty are pretty obvious to see. You have two main characters, that one is the sciencey type and one is the fun-loving type.
Yeah, the stupid idiot, the lovable idiot, I guess.
Yeah. A couple things that are different. I think, like in Rick and Morty, it's clear that Rick kind of like controls the flow of the almost every episode. And this one, I think it's more of a laid back approach. Like, you have a main character, but they still are kind of a victim to their circumstances in a way that Rick really isn't. And then kind of a second main difference is, I would say, it's a lot more... I'm almost every episode is a one-off episode. I mean, in Rick and Morty, you have a lot of that, but you do have like some story and some character development. So far, at least in the first season, really haven't seen much of that. Like, the characters haven't changed pretty much at all.
Yeah, I think really the biggest, I guess, taking what's happened in other episodes and progressing it forward into some sort of development is mostly shown through kind of like the side story, or like the B story that's playing throughout the background of the season, which I really love that. I guess to answer the first question that I proposed, I think that, like Michael said, there's definitely some noticeable similarities between Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites, and, you know, you can tell where he's taken like the more refined parts of storytelling that he's used for Rick and Morty and kind of put it in this in a different light. But I think this really harkens more so back to Justin Roiland's like TV, or not TV, but like internet shows he used to do like back in the early 2000s. And I think that's something that's probably the most enjoyable to watch, because I think things of like interdimensional cable, or any time really that they do kind of like that skip-based stuff in Rick and Morty, that's really what's shown here, and that's where like Justin really is like his strongest at. So I like them incorporating that elements. There's definitely some callbacks to some of his other internet shows, like I don't even remember the name of it now because it's been so long since I've seen it, but like the little aliens that the main aliens like sweat or perspire with in Solar Opposites, that's like a callback to some internet episode Justin Roiland did back in the day. And I just find stuff like that, you know, really cool Easter eggs. But as far as the show, I don't know, it's kind of like a more sitcom-y, I feel like, than Rick and Morty. I mean, Rick and Morty could be classified as a sitcom, but I think because it does focus more so on the family aspect in this show, it, you know, falls into that category a little bit more.
Yeah. I think so in this episode you have two kids that one of the differences is they're obviously they're aliens, so they're different on their own, and they use like the technology. So pretty much every character that you follow except the pupa uses technology in their day-to-day life, and I don't know if the kids really create technology, but at least they use it, which is a little bit different. And then so it follows a similar format to a lot of Justin Roiland stuff, where there's a main plot and then a subplot with the characters. This time it's almost had like 3 plots, because you have like the pupa plot, you have the kids plot, and you have the adults plot.
Right, and then any episode that has like the wall in there too. Which the wall, I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen anything about it, but the wall is maybe my favorite part of the show. Outside of the main plots that are sometimes put in there. Yeah,
they do have a story based on the wall that is pretty great. It does call back to a lot of different shows, movies, and concepts, but it's still pretty interesting to watch.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say. Besides that, there's some other differences, but you do have interesting characters, like the teachers at school, kind of in both shows, are very weird. Yeah. Basically across the board.
I feel like in Rick and Morty, one of the things that makes them kind of weird is the names, right? But, their characters are a little bit different than their names. But in this one, it's like, the names that are personified in Rick and Morty are actually what the teachers are doing in this one. So, I don't know. I find that a funny deal. But yeah, there's other characters, too, that are thrown in there. I mean, there's some, like, throwaway characters that are introduced in, like, each episode. Or there's some, like, recurring ones. And, like we said, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like the C plot of the series. But I think overall, the comedy is, I don't know if it's at the same level. It's just different than Rick and Morty. It's that more goofier, kind of, like Michael said, laid back, or just kind of like you enjoyed this. I do really enjoy a lot of the jabs that they have at things going on or topics that are popular in today. So that's something that I think they nailed pretty well. I will say at the beginning, I don't know about you, Michael, but I feel like at the beginning of the show, I wasn't fully invested into it. I think it took a few episodes, and I don't know if that's just because I think the first 3, maybe 4 episodes were just not as much up my speed as the rest of the season, or if it was just that it took me a while for the season to get quote unquote good to me. But I had that feeling.
I think the first couple episodes were a little weak, but they were establishing kind of a new world. So it's kind of understandable. Like in Rick and Morty, they can just drop. Obviously, it's a parody of something else. So they can just drop you in the world and do what they want to do. But since it's kind of an alien show, and there's so many weird terminologies that they at least have to pretend to explain, then they have to set a baseline there. Overall, I think the finale was probably one of the strongest episodes, if not my favorite episode. And you had pretty good side plots as well. I'm excited to watch more of the show and see where it goes. I think that eventually they'll probably have to do more than just the skits that they've been doing, or at least do some character development or change some things. But so far, I haven't gotten tired of the concept. And obviously, with if we see a progression in the wall arc, then that'll be interesting to see in the future too.
Yeah, I think it. To me, I'm not really hoping for a certain direction, just because, he is attached to Rick and Morty and the other show, and there's certain things that I think most people probably expect or want out of that show. So whatever, he's pressured into doing in that show, he can kind of feel free to expand in other areas in this show. But I do like how this show kind of, has, elements from both parties, whether it's the more serious, more streamlined, linear storytelling with the wall, or the more skip-based one with just the aliens. But I am looking forward to seeing how it kind of evolves. I think one of the things, just small highlight, that I appreciate the most is the opening to Justin Roiland shows. I think of, I don't know, maybe still my favorite to this day is House of Cosby's, because I just love the randomness of telling it, but it's not in music form or anything like that. It's just speaking, and I like how he brought that back in this, and I love how it just changes every episode just slightly. But overall, I would say it's definitely a show worth watching. I think people that like Rick and Morty would like this, but I think even people that maybe aren't so into Rick and Morty might like this, because it's just it's not entirely the same. Even though it does share some elements, like we said. So I don't know, maybe those people wouldn't. But for me, I would give it, I think I'd give the first season a gotta have it. I think even though the beginning part of the season was not up to par with the rest of it. That was still pretty early on, so it's not like it was half the season, at least for me. So that's why I would say I enjoyed it to that level. And I probably would rewatch some of those episodes before the next season drops.
Yeah, pretty similar opinion to yours. I think the overall concept is good. I think they have a good sandbox to play in. I think there were some executional things that they did wrong, or just didn't flow as well in the first couple episodes. But towards the finale and towards the latter half, I think they really picked up the pace and did well. So I'd probably give it a worth it. But either way, I like the show, and I want to see what more ideas they have in place. And if it's a 7-episode or 7-season show, like some of the other Justin Roiland shows,
70 more years of it.
Yeah,
I think season 2 is announced, or I think it is officially happening. Don't quote me on that, but I think just judging by the info that I've seen buzzing around, I think it's highly likely. So we'll probably come back for that. But as always, we'll be here to cover more stuff, and stay tuned for when we do the full review of the Rick and Morty season 4. But anyway, Axe, we'll let you go. Peace.
Later.